Picture this. You're back in the early 90s. The internet, still a novelty, but a phenomenon that would fundamentally reshape how we connect as humans. And knowing what you know now, how would you have prepared yourself, positioned, maybe even invested? We're now at the cusp of a technological transformation that's going to restructure the course of the global economy forever. Generative AI. According to the president of Microsoft, it's going to be the steam engine for knowledge work that's going to add up to 7% to global GDP by 2030. Do you need a marketing plan for a new product? No problem. How about a generative AI assistant that can produce a first draft of a report, or maybe even a tool that can help doctors produce better medical diagnoses? Just like the web democratized information in the early 90s, generative AI will democratize productivity, innovation, maybe even creativity. And now is your time to position yourself. Geopolitics is creating a sense of urgency for companies to adopt generative AI in order to be able to compete at a global stage. And it's funny because in 2017, when I began analyzing and researching the impact of AI, long before ChatGPT took the world by storm, the field was actually looking rather different. Most of the discourse around AI was really focused within a few niche pockets within society. Business adoption had started, but in reality, the real hype and the real adoption was still set to come. Governments are now rushing to develop capabilities that will support an AI-driven economy and the infrastructure for tomorrow. And so the straightforward implication for that is that for companies who previously considered that AI would just be a nice to have, is now considered a matter of corporate survival. Understanding the high-level implications of generative AI is important, but I always say that the real work starts when we actually think about how we can bring it into our organizations. For that, I recommend typically 4 steps on how to think about it. The first step is really about demystifying the technology. When we think about generative AI, often the first picture that comes to mind is about some sci-fi, something about the far future, but in reality, we're looking at statistical models with computing power. Understand the technology, understand what it can and cannot do, and from there, we can think about how it can benefit your business. The second thing is about really aligning AI strategy with the business strategy. Think about the use cases. Just throwing a neural network at your company is not going to immediately increase revenue, but we really have to think about the areas where generative AI can help our workers to do their work better, and in turn, which areas are better left untouched. The third step is then to understand your constraints, or in other words, what are actually my capabilities in order to be able to bring the technology into my company. The majority of businesses here really have 2 areas of work that they need to focus on. The first one is about their data. Artificial intelligence fundamentally functions on data. And in order to be able to build generative AI technologies, data needs to be high quality and clean. And the second point is, of course, talent. And that's the people that effectively develop these tools, both within your company or alternatively relying on outside contractors. The final step then is to start small, but to start. And with that, effectively, I mean that identify some smaller pilot cases where generative AI could be trialed before spreading it out across the organization. That has 2 advantages. The first one is that you can fail fast and you can create learning experiences without investing too much capital. But the second thing is that once you're successful in that, you can actually create momentum, scale it, and build approval within your company to expand the technology across your whole organization. In AI's rise, overlooking ethics creates pitfalls. Privacy breaches are real, customer data can get leaked or compromised, and as a result diminish the trust that people have in your brand. Misinformation and intellectual property breaches are important too, and can create serious legal issues for companies more downstream. The key thing for organizations is to really embed ethical practices from the start. And with that, I mean, from the moment that an idea even about a particular AI tools is being conceived, think about the ethical ramifications that this could have. conduct an assessment of the data that is being used, monitor the use of AI really from the beginning all the way to the end user, and of course collect feedback from the people who are most affected by that, as that will provide you a first-hand understanding of how the technology is actually playing out in real life. The other thing to add is that our knowledge is limited, and soliciting external feedback from experts who have been working in this field for decades seems like a good strategy as well. Now, this is important because research shows that customers and businesses generally perceive responsible AI as a competitive advantage. So this is not an issue that excludes innovation, but it's the different side of the same coin. Well, it's obvious that AI has become a massive buzzword. And because of that, I think that it's actually quite easy to feel overwhelmed with the amount of information and opinions that are out there. Now, I was lucky enough to have worked with all major AI firms and governments on pretty much all continents, and I really want to use all of this experience to be able to help people cut through the noise and really understand what's at stake here. And there's typically two areas that I dive into. The first one is a more high-level macro one, in which we look at the seismic shifts that generative AI is creating across the economy, but also really what it means when we're talking about this age of generative AI. And the second one is perhaps more on a lower level, a micro one, where we look really at the organizational and industry-specific implications that generative AI has. And that means, of course, and most importantly, understand the practical steps that people can take in order to prepare themselves.